welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, the Stanley Cup final is going to a game 6. It did not look like it was going that way after the first 3 games for sure. And I didn't know what to think after game 4, but that was an absolutely incredible game 5 that both teams put together with Edmonton coming out on top 5-3.
Yeah, well, and going back to our predictions, you had Edmonton in 7. I had Florida in 6. So both are still on the table. Obviously, we're going to talk. We got some other news we're going to discuss first before we get to talking about games 4 and 5 in this series and kind of where the series is at. My prediction, I might not be as confident. I might have a different one, but we'll come back to that later on here.
Yeah, because we got other news.
Busy day. Just for clarification, I just want to say we are recording this on Wednesday night right now. So this is basically all news that's happened today. This will be the episode that you guys will be hearing on Friday at our regular time. And then we will have another episode out on Saturday, which will cover game 6 of this series. And then, we'll kind of either be talking about, hey, yeah, Florida, it'll be just basically like, hey, talking about Florida being the Cup champs, or it'll be talking about game 6 and then a preview for a potential game 7, which would be nuts. It would be nuts
especially
if
after
we're talking about it. Yeah, if we're talking about a game 7 Friday night, like, whew, it's going to be something. It's going to be something.
Yeah, and I genuinely do think that so much news broke today and so many moves happened because teams were willing to bet that Florida was going to close it out in game 5. I think they thought no. The Cup was going to be awarded.
I've seen people say that, and I don't fully agree, because when you think about it, right, like this is coming out on Friday. So when people are listening to this, in 1 week, it's the draft. And then from the draft to free agency now, because they've extended this playoffs, like they've drugged this out so long, to now when from the draft to the start of free agency, it's like 2 days. So I think teams are kind of just being like, you know what? Because we know Gary Bettman doesn't like, stuff like this to kind of overshadow when the playoffs are going on. But at the same time, like, teams got to make moves and prepare, because, if they wait until the Stanley Cup's awarded on potentially Monday, if it goes to game 7, then you've only got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to do your shit before the draft. I think GMs are just like, fuck it. Like, we want to start getting our shit done, so we're prepared, because like it's a quick turnaround from the end of the playoffs to the draft. Like it,
for
either
sure.
way, it's less than a week. So
the NHL has, we've heard from multiple sources that they have asked teams to almost postpone their business and try and not have anything big come out during the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like, if you want to make deals, go make a handshake deal and then don't announce it until after the playoffs.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, maybe, like, do you think Bettman, a bunch of GMs were like, hey man, this is really fucking with our system and like our timeline, and we need to make these deals happen to make other deals. Do you think Bettman was like, fine, there's a 3-day break between these games, this is the best time to do it? Or like,
I bet they didn't care, because you do the move and then what? Bettman gets mad at you and you're like, well, hey, you're fucking letting Cap Friendly get stolen from us, so we're trying to get our shit done early so we can figure out what we're working with. And then right there, what's he gonna say? He's not gonna be able to say shit after that.
I guess, but it's such an old boys club that, he can, if you look at him the wrong way, he can make your life a living hell with the help of the owners. So
it's quickly becoming new boys club, though. When you look around the league, you look at a lot of the people coming into roles with teams, and not only the league, it's a lot of former players and whatnot. Like, it's slowly becoming a new boys club.
Yeah, it's definitely newer than it has been, because it was even older boys club in years, a retirement home past. Yeah, but
it's a funeral home at that point.
Yeah, it seems suspect that all of this dropped on this one day after so long of nothing. Like, there's no way they all got fed up at the same time and decided, let's do business. I got to imagine somebody was like, do your business now, or like they were like, if it goes past game 5, whatever, do your stuff or something. Yeah. But That's complete speculation as well. That's just
Because
my
it all
thoughts. It
happened
might
in
be.
like a 3-hour span today. The
Yeah,
kind of the four moves that happened today.
yeah. Do you have anyone specific you want to start with? I figured actually we could start with the Markstrom trade
Marks and
if you don't
yeah,
have anything else.
yeah, no, yeah, because this one, you know what? I think basically everything that happened today kind of caught me off guard. But this was kind of the one that like we knew was gonna happen. Like it was just it wasn't a an if, it was a when.
Yeah.
Um,
It looked
so
for a bit
okay,
like it
so
was going to be there was possibilities of a trade to Ottawa. Apparently, Toronto had even kicked tires on Markstrom. I don't know how serious they were about it, but it sounds like they at least wanted to know what the expected return was for him. But
mhm,
he did end up going to New Jersey Devils for a first round pick. I assume it's the Devils' first round pick. Uh,
yeah,
for the 2025 draft. That's next year. Top 10 protected. So if that pick ends up being in the top 10, the Devils finish in the bottom 10, then
yeah,
it'll slide to next year and be unprotected. Which by that point, I can't imagine they're finishing that low
yeah.
because since they have such a good young team. But um, yeah, for that draft pick, and then defenseman Kevin Ball, who was a second
Big
round
guy.
pick in, I want to say 2018, I
I
believe.
believe so. He was part of the Taylor Hall trade when he was drafted
Oh,
by
interesting.
Arizona, and he was traded to New Jersey as part of the package for Taylor Hall when, for whatever reason, the Arizona Coyotes fucking trade for Taylor Hall in December. Um, that was a weird time. That was a weird time we were in. I don't know. I mean, I like it for both teams. I think I think kind of based on the because we there was that potential deal that was going to happen before the trade deadline last year. Kind of rumors got out about what that return might look like, and so I think and that was all rumors. None of it was true, but I think that kind of got like Flames fans' expectations up about like, hey, this is what we should be expecting, and then it you know didn't live up to it, but I don't know. I think it's a good deal. I think it helps New Jersey because now they at least have you know a goaltender, a guy that
At
they can
minimum,
actually
you've got
trust.
a guy who will work in a tandem with Jake Allen. Like Markstrom Allen, that sounds like a pretty solid tandem or starter and backup
Yeah, it's not a tandem. It will be, I think, Markstrom the starter, Allen
to
the
start
backup,
with for
and that could
sure.
even be
But
like a Markstrom plays 60 games and Allen plays 22 or something. Like I don't see it being a thing where it's like Markstrom's logging all the games. Like Markstrom could only even he could be the starter, but only play maybe 55 or something. Like
yeah, that's kind of more what I'm expecting, just because I think Jake Allen is really that good. Like
he is very good.
he's not a starter on a cup winning team, I don't think, but he can be very serviceable as a 1B or a one of the better backups in the league.
He reminds me a lot of like a James Reimer back when he was kind of in his prime.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not the type of guy that you want to have to be your your guy you have to rely on in the clutch games in the regular season and then in the playoffs. Like, but if he's your backup there, like that's a very solid backup to have, and a guy that you can trust to start 5 or 6 games in a row if need be. Like,
Yeah.
so I think it's great for New Jersey and then even Calgary. I mean, they're obviously trying to stick to their retool thing that they're on, and so adding a first round pick and you know I think Kevin Ball's kind of I think he's just a good defensive defenseman who's built for a third pairing role. But he's young. He's I think I like a lot of people might kind of view him as a potential kind of like replacement for Zadorov, minus maybe
Yeah.
the nastiness that Zadorov brought and the random hat tricks he would drop every now and then. But I like this for both teams, and Calgary loading up with another first round pick already, and they already have Vegas is in 2026.
Yeah, they have where is it? There it is. The Flames have 15 draft picks in the first 3 rounds in the next 3 seasons. So they have 6 first rounders over the next 3 years, 4 seconds and 5 thirds.
Oh, they will lose one of those firsts though.
Oh,
In
right.
next year, it's either the worst first round pick up between the Flames and the Panthers will go to Montreal.
Yeah,
Which,
but
I mean, if you
still,
think about it, if Calgary just sucked it up and just stuck with that final year of Monahan's deal, like, yeah, they could be going into next year's draft with 3 first round picks,
yeah,
which, you know, again, when you're trying to do a retool, that really helps.
yeah. But I do think they're going in the right direction. That's still 5 in the next 3 years and all the seconds and a bunch of thirds. They as long as they can scout and draft well, this is going to be the start of a really good rebuild. And I do think it is a rebuild at this point. People keep calling it a retool. I know they do have several very quality NHL players, but the sheer amount of draft capital they're getting, like if you're retooling, you're kind of looking to get younger guys and stuff, but usually they're not trying to get draft picks, right? And they're looking
Yeah.
for a lot of draft capital. I think it's not they're looking to turn it around in 2 years. I think they're looking to make a really really strong return in 3 4 plus years, while still being, not bottoming out now. And any guys that can make the roster can play meaningful hockey and, properly develop.
Mhm. Yeah, yep, I mean, fair enough, yeah. Whatever direction Calgary's going in with it, I like it for them. In terms
Yeah.
of New Jersey, I mean, goaltending was the thing that they needed. I still can't believe that they didn't address it sooner last season. But
Yeah.
the way they're looking right now, I think they've got a very good team going into next year because goaltending was the one thing holding them back. And
Yeah.
uh,
Goaltending and injury
you know,
issues. And
yeah,
you can't do much about injury issues other than hope, right? So,
yeah. And
but
and
yeah,
the, and the thing on Calgary's side, because I know a lot of Flames fans again aren't happy with the turn. You got to look at it. Markstrom is an aging goaltender. Like from where he is now,
34, right?
you needed to trade him a year and a half ago if you wanted to get a massive return for him. But at that time, the Flames were still thinking they could contend, so there was no need to trade him. But where he's at now, I mean, you already saw how different of a goal he was. He wasn't the same without Chris Tanev. So, losing Tanev, his value is only going to continue to go down. Again, he's 34. He's only going to continue to get older, and that drives a goalie's value down. So, you kind of had to cash in for what you could get. And I think even getting a first round pick, and, he's not a superstar on defense, but a solid guy who can play 82 games on the back end and
Yeah.
be a good
82
penalty
games
killer.
last year.
And I think you got to be happy with that. And I think that also helps fill a void on Calgary's defense. And rather than overpaying for a veteran, an older guy in free agency, getting a young, not stud on defense, but a guy who, again, I think can be very solid and be part of, their future going forward. And also, how can you
Yeah.
not fucking love like, what is he, like six,
I think he's
six,
6'5".
six, like, I think he, like 6'6", 230, 6'6", 235. Like, how can you not love having just a big guy like that on defense? Like, it's so fun having a guy like that to watch play defense on your team.
Yeah.
23 years old. He's 6'6", 230 pounds, and he's from British Columbia. So,
There
he's a
you
little bit
go.
closer to home. So maybe he actually wants to stick around with the Flames and be there long term. Because again, that's also something that they've struggled with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a big win for the Devils, and I think a lot of people are misconstruing that as that means Calgary lost. I think
Yeah,
this is like an A grading for the Devils, and I think this is still like at least a B for the Flames. If you want to say that they should have traded him sooner and like take into account that they didn't move him when they should have, you could say it's a C plus or something. But they got a first round pick, they got a guy who's serviceable, and they moved Markstrom, and that's important because they need to play Dustin Wolf in the NHL. He can't be
yeah,
in the NHL anymore, and now he's going to be splitting starts with Dan Vladar, and he's going to be getting more seasoned. He's going to be more time against guys of a caliber that he should be playing against, and
I
he's gonna
expect Wolf.
he's gonna
Wolf comes
develop.
in as the starter next season.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna be like a 60 game starter. Is more what I mean. I think he's gonna
No,
play
no, he'll be
50 games at most,
yeah, he'll
probably,
be like a
unless he's
50
great.
to 55. If he
Yeah,
gets on a hot streak, I could see Calgary riding with him.
yeah,
But I think it's kind of his job to lose now. Like you're
Yeah.
not gonna roll in and be like, "Hey, Dan Vladar's our starter." Like if
No.
it
It'd
would
be
be a
more of a
tandem at that
sheltering his
point.
minutes kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to throw him right into the fire, but hell, if you play him like he's a starter and he plays like a starter, you keep going.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think it's his job to lose, and I
Yeah.
think if Wolf can translate what we see in the AHL, he'll be even better than Markstrom. So to
He
walk away with
definitely
a
has the potential to
defenseman
be it.
and a first round pick, and you've already got a goalie who's got the potential to be better, I think you got to be happy with that at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find the numbers here, but I don't think we mentioned it. But Calgary did retain 31 and a quarter percent of Jake Markstrom's contract, which I believe is another 3 years, which would actually be 2 seasons once we hit July 1st.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
do you
2
know?
years with the Devils.
Do you know what the actual number is? I just see the percentage on the
It's like
retention.
1.9 or something, I think.
1.9. Okay, yeah. And
Something in
Calgary's not
there.
going to be right up against the cap. I don't think that's really going to matter. Um, for them retaining and helping out the Devils, because I think that brings Markstrom to an even 4 million per year. For them, I think they could have got a little bit more with the retention as well. But again,
Calgary's returning 1.875.
okay, so like
And
that's
so that
very
makes
manageable in their position.
Markstrom, he's got 4.125. So just a little bit over 4 mil.
Okay, and
So between Markstrom and Allen, going in next year, the Devils are paying them 6 mil between the two of them.
yeah,
That's pretty solid, actually. For a
yeah,
goaltending tandem like that at 6 mil, that's pretty
yeah.
juicy, actually. That's pretty good.
That's pretty handy work there, especially with. I mean, the cap's going up 4.5 this year alone. That pays for Markstrom.
Yeah, yeah, right there. So
So
I do like it more for New Jersey, but again, if you're a Flames
yeah,
fan, I don't think you should be too upset about it because I think this was the best deal they were going to get. And when you're looking at it, you
yeah.
don't have. I mean, sure, it would have been nice to. I don't think that Ottawa's first round pick this year was on the table. I don't think that was a possibility. Um,
I
and then
think
so even doing a deal with Ottawa, you were getting Corpusalo back. So now you don't even have to deal with Corpusalo for
yeah.
another 4 years at outrageous money and
I
taking
think
away
that's
a spot from
why.
Wolf again.
I think that's why it happened with New Jersey. I think they probably would have got a better return from Ottawa, but the better return also would include dealing with Corpusalo's contract. And I think at the end of the day, they decided for the lesser package and not taking the 4-year boat anchor contract. So,
And that's the same thing
especially
they
since
did
it's a
with.
boat anchor contract that brings in another goalie. What are you going to send Corpusalo and play down the Wranglers? Like now you've got 3 goalies and you're paying too much money for them all again. So
Well, it's
it,
the same thing they did at the deadline. They didn't do the deal with Edmonton for Chris Tanev, and they went with the lesser package with Dallas because they didn't want to have to take on Cody Cece's contract.
yeah.
So again, you know what? You could say what you want, but I like that move by Conroy, not wanting to take on dead contracts from other teams and have his team stuck with him. He'd rather put it towards not only the money you have to spend, but also taking away spots from your young guys and whatnot.
Yeah, especially in that
Because Calgary's
goaltender
got a
spot,
lot.
which a very large part of trading Markstrom is because they're making room for in the net for Wolves. So, and
Yeah.
he did retain on Markstrom, but that's only for 2 years after the this offseason, which is a lot less than the 4 years on
Yeah.
Corpusalo. Like you can take some bad contracts, but as soon as they're more than 2 years, as soon as it's 3+ years, it's a long time to deal with that kind of stuff. So
Well, we got one team to talk about with doing shit like that.
we
And also
sure do.
Calgary's not in cap hell. Like
No.
they can afford to retain on for 2
Yeah.
years at
And I don't
less
think
than
they're
a 2
going to be in
million.
2 years. So
Yeah. So moving on from that, what do you want to do next? Do you want to do the
let's
real shocker of the day, or do you want to talk
let's
about
do the
the
shocker. I want to get into
Okay.
this. So
This one's pretty clear cut and dry. There's not much to it. It's swapping of moldy diapers amongst toddlers. Um Pierre-Luc Dubois shipped out of LA already for Darcy Kemper with the Washington Capitals. 1-for-1, no money retained, just a straight up 1-for-1 hockey trade. Um, I
I
don't know.
just
What are your thoughts on this?
first I want to shout out Pierre LeBrun, the one who broke the news for prefacing the trade that his tweet announcing this trade as the trade is 1-for-1 PLD for Kemper. That was just the trade is 1-for-1 was a very good callback there, but home run by who's it? Rob Blake, the Kings GM. Not a complete home run. This deal in a vacuum is good for his team.
Bunt.
We'll get to why it's not actually a full scope home run in just a sec, but
it's a bunt. It's nowhere. It's home run shouldn't even be in conversation.
The Pierre-Luc Dubois contract is bar none the worst contract in the league right now. The guy is a fourth liner. He has potential, but he's not realizing it right now. So maybe later they'll look like geniuses in Washington, but right now
lazy is all it is.
Yeah, his compete on Cap Friendly, by the way, is in the top 86 percentile. It's rated 86 out of 100, by the way.
Holy shit!
Because the Cap's on Cap Friendly now, so they can say he's good. But
yeah, good thing they bought Cap Friendly so they can hide these fucking abysmal deals they've got over there.
That's what a lot of people are saying. But yeah, Pierre-Luc Dubois had a full no move clause. Actually, I don't know if it was a no trade or a no move, but
it was a full no movement clause, but it didn't kick in until July 1st.
Exactly, and he
had no say in this.
Rob Blake knew this guy and this contract was going to suck to deal with for 7 or 8 more years. So he said, fuck it, dump it. And the Caps say, you know what? We think we can, I can fix him. And the Kings get back Darcy Kemper, who has his own contract that's not great. Is it, I want to say 5 years or $5 million per year, or 3 years left? 4 years left?
3 years left. 3 years left, yeah.
3 years left. After the season he had last year, that does not look good, but Darcy Kemper has a pretty long track record of being a good goalie. And $5 million isn't horrible. It's definitely not good, but it's not horrible. The Kings need a goalie. They played Dave Riddick in the playoffs. Kemper can be their starter if that's the case, right? At least I like to think he's got a shot. So they got a goalie. They filled a need, and they got rid of this absolute boat anchor contract. In that sense is what I meant by it being a home run. Looking at the full scope of everything that happened, it is a fumble of epic proportions of asset management. Rob Blake has not done a great job, honestly, as GM in LA, in my estimation. Because
I think this is it. Like this, if the LA Kings don't,
has he only been there
at
1
least
year?
Make it to the? No, he's been there for a bit. If the Kings don't make it,
PLD.
Oh yeah, 1 year.
Jeez.
If the Kings don't make it to like the second round of the playoffs next year, potentially the Western Conference Final, I think he's gone. I think looking at it now, it's like, okay, he's done up until like the last, year and a half, he's done an all right job. Like the team's getting the playoffs, but then it's like, you just fucking go in the first round every year. So it's really like and you're also in a shit division where like it doesn't take much to make the playoffs in the Pacific. And then again, giving up all of that shit for Pierre-Luc Dubois and then signing him to a contract that we all knew was a bad deal at the time when it was signed. And then less than a year later, you're having to dump him for, a goalie 1-for-1. And then just like, it's not a good look for him. So the Kings need to have a great season next year, or I think he might be done there.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up all the entire trades so I can properly lay this all out for those who don't know the entire history of this. But this is the kind of asset management we're talking about with Rob Blake over the last couple of years. So first off, this one was back in 2018, so it was a while ago. The LA Kings acquire Tobias Reeder and Scott Wedgwood in exchange to Arizona for Darcy Kemper. That's it. That's bad. Darcy Kemper is now a cup-winning goalie, and he has been elite for a long time. Not last year, but for a long stretch, he was very good.
And that was right when he's starting to come into his own in the league as well, when they traded him.
So
and then he really turned into a stud with the Coyotes.
Yeah, he had really good numbers for a long time on a bad Coyotes team, very similar to John Gibson, except he
To the
didn't
point where
really end
the
up
Coyotes
falling
were
off
able
that way.
to trade him for a first-round pick to the Avs. And then his
Yeah,
first year with the Avalanche, he was the missing piece, and they won a cup.
yeah. So Scott Wedgwood, Tobias Reeder, very little value for a guy who ended up having a lot. Then, in a completely separate trade, so last offseason, the Kings received Pierre-Luc Dubois in exchange for Gabriel Velarde, great player, Alex Iafallo, great player, and Rasmus Kupari, a pretty good player.
A B- prospect, I would say,
Yeah.
at
And
this
in
point.
addition, a second round pick in the 2024 draft. So that would be this year. All that
So
stuff for
middle second
Pierre-Luc
round pick.
Dubois. So
Yeah.
they traded all that stuff to get a guy who played third, fourth line minutes, had a little bit of promise sometimes, but mostly looked like a bum. And they signed him to a huge extension, which ended up being horrible. And now, today, they trade this massive contract in Pierre-Luc Dubois for Darcy Kemper, who they already had to begin with, who is now with the Washington Capitals. So they
Yeah.
got Kemper back, but they lost out on the first round pick he was worth. They lost out on Gabe Velarde, Alex Iafallo, Kupari, a second round pick. And on top of that, they lost out on all those years of having Darcy Kemper. Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine if this current LA Kings team existed with Iafallo, Velarde, and Kemper?
Yeah.
They could do some damage in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Well, and even
it's
breaking
pretty
it
rough
down,
to look
right?
at.
So Pierre-Luc Dubois, he played all 82 games this season, stayed healthy. He put up 40 points in the regular season. And then the playoffs, McDavid has played 23 games and already has 42 points. McDavid has more points in the playoffs this year than Dubois had all year. So, also, I just
Which is
thought of this
wild.
with Dubois. I just thought of this. I don't even feel
Okay.
fucking bad for him because he's so lazy. So he was in Columbus, didn't want to be in Columbus, so he got traded to Winnipeg. He did all right with Winnipeg, better than he did with the Kings, and he was like, "All right, I'm an RFA. You guys can trade my rights." And he basically like decided where he was going to go.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to stay in Winnipeg, and so he basically forced Winnipeg's hand because he's an RFA into, kind of like what Kachuk did almost, where he kind of narrowed it down to like 3 teams and said, "You have to trade me to one of these 3 teams." And so Dubois did that. He got to go to his team of choice, the LA Kings, sign his massive deal with them. And he's like, perfect. I'm now locked in 8 years in LA. He played so fucking bad that in less than a year, they ship him off to Washington. And he's now stuck in Washington
Yeah. And
for the
apparently
next
he's
7 years.
excited to go there, but he also said that, I think, after learning about the trade, because he doesn't have a no trade clause yet, so he didn't have to sign off on it. So what are you gonna do? Say, fuck, I didn't want to go there, but I guess I'll deal. So
I will say,
who knows if he really wants to go there? Maybe he does, but
I'd
it's hard
be
to
kind of
say.
shocked if he does. But I just find that funny that he forced Winnipeg's hand into sending him to his team of choice where he could sign his big long deal, and in less than a year, he's already gone.
Yeah.
I will say though, even we did shit on Rob Blake, but I will say that is a fucking nice move on his part when he signed Dubois to that deal. It's like, okay, 8-year deal, but a year from now is when your no movement clause kicks in. So in
That's a
case
nice piece
something
of
like
work
this
there.
happened, he was actually able to move. Because
Little
if
bit of
it
a fail
was
safe.
kicked in from the beginning, and maybe okay, there was no movement clause in the last year or something, like Dubois would be like, no, I don't want to leave. I'm staying here. You're stuck with me, and I'll
Yeah.
be a lazy third, fourth liner making 8.5 mil. Like that, you know what? That was a very nice move on Rob Blake's part because he was able to now at least move on from it.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. So in a vacuum, Dubois for Kemper is really good. But looking at the overall asset management, dealing with the two of them,
Exactly.
they lost a lot of value. But as
Yeah.
far as today goes, the Kings as a team are going to wake up better tomorrow than they did this morning. So
Yeah.
that progress is progress, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Where do you think Pierre-Luc Dubois fits into the Washington Capitals lineup?
I mean, probably first line center. or second line center. Like they have like nothing for centerman anymore.
Yeah, I think Dylan Strome was their
Oh
top
yeah, actually
centerman this
I
year.
forgot about Dylan Strome. Yeah, so probably second line for Dubois.
I think they're gonna be hoping that he takes that first center spot. They're gonna hope
I
that
think
he's
they're
that
gonna
guy.
try him on the first or second line, and then see where it goes and make adjustments. But I think
Yeah.
their plan is to try and have him and Dylan Strome kind of be their 1-2 centerman
Yeah.
going into next year. Don't think
Yeah.
it'll work, but
Yeah. And who's the other guy? They had another guy that did all right as
Protas,
a higher centerman. I
McMichael.
think I was gonna say Connor McMichael.
McMichael. Yeah, he actually kind of came into his own last year. So he again, that's a guy that could push Dubois down to the third line if he's just going to keep,
Yeah, McMichael's
playing the way he has.
23 years old. If he gets better over the offseason and Dubois doesn't get his act together and be that guy that his draft position and his shiny new contract say it's going to be, it could be rough for him over there. But we'll have to see because I think the Capitals they at least sound confident, which they have to, but they sound confident that he's going to be great for him. Uh, yeah. If not, though, you just traded for an 8-year. Is it 8 years or 7? It'll be 7
It'll be 7
this year. Yeah, so
yeah.
7 years of $8.5 million per year, full no movement. He can waive that if you're sending him to somewhere sunny, but are the other team's not going to take it, right? Like,
yeah,
it's it's going to be tough if he doesn't turn around there. A lot of people are calling this cap friendly karma.
Yeah,
and we'll
rightfully
see.
So.
Making $1 million less than Alex Ovechkin.
Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, I don't got a ton more.
Yeah, no, I got nothing to
say
talk about this shitter of a deal.
I'm sure as the season goes on next year and we get into the regular season next year, we'll have plenty to say on how it's going with them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think that's about it. Do you want to get to the next piece of, I guess, player movement that happened today? That was not the same level of unexpected as the PLD trade, but people weren't expecting it.
A weird one. Yeah. So going over to San Jose, they made two different moves today. The first one being they traded a 4th round pick in the 2024 draft. That 4th round pick being the Winnipeg Jets to the Dallas Stars in exchange for Ty Dellandrea, former 1st round pick. Kind of just, I think he's kind of capped out at being a really good penalty killer, a 4th liner, good guy in the locker room from the sounds of it.
Depth player.
Pretty good deal. And it's someone actually broke it down on Twitter. Kind of a nice, chain of events for Mike Greer in some of his moves. This 4th round pick. So last year, or no, don't know if it was last year, the year before, but they claimed Mikey Eyssimont off waivers from the Winnipeg Jets. They trade Eyssimont at the deadline to Tampa Bay for Nemestikov, and then they flip Nemestikov to the Jets for a 4th round pick. And then the 4th round pick today being traded for Ty Dellandrea. So, to take a waiver claim on kind of an AHL player and give him a chance in the NHL. He's now found a home with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, I mean, you grab a guy off waivers and you end up turning it into, still a young 23-year-old former 1st round pick that can potentially be a solid depth player for the next, little bit. Is a nice set of moves.
That actually worked out really well for all 3 teams. Eysimont's been great for Tampa. Nemesnikov was really good when he got sent back to the Jets. Like that's kind of worked out well for all 3.
Yeah. It's been a nice it's worked out well for all of them. And then the one that just makes absolutely no fucking sense to me, the San Jose Sharks claim Barclay Goodrow and his horrendous contract off waivers from the New York Rangers. Now, I read about it earlier, and then you've also read because you told me about it. That I guess the Sharks kind of had to, if you want to put it that way, because
It
The
sounds
San
like they
Jose
didn't
Sharks
have
were
to. It sounds like the
no
Sharks wanted to, and the Rangers forced their hand a little bit. Not their hand, but
Goodrow's
yeah,
hand
yeah.
because he
Barclay
had a
Goodrow said he did not
modified
want.
no trade clause, and
Yes,
the
yeah,
Sharks were on that on his 15-team no trade list. So the Rangers couldn't trade him to San Jose, but if they put him on waivers and the Sharks claimed him,
because
then he would have to go to San Jose.
Sharks are the first team on the waiver wire, right? Because they're the first overall pick, or is that how it works?
Yeah, it starts from the bottom, but like either
Yeah.
way, no other team was
No
claiming
other
him.
team was going to take him anyway, but like
Like that's why
he
they put
knew
him on
if he
waivers,
knew
is
the Sharks
because
wanted him and they're literally number one, like you're going there. I would love to know what the deal was in place between the Rangers and the Sharks before Goodrow said no, I can't. I'm they're on my no trade thing, no dice.
yeah,
I'd love to know what the proposed trade was if the Sharks were willing to pay for him for whatever reason, if the Rangers had to give up a second. Um, but then yeah, they
Rangers
just
would
put
have
him on
had to
waivers.
attach something,
You like to
and
think,
it's just, I mean, great for the Rangers that they don't have to give up anything and they get out of Goodrow's deal, but for the Sharks, it makes absolutely no sense to do this. It makes zero.
I disagree with that.
No, because I've
I don't think
tried,
it's a
like,
great move,
I
but I think
haven't
it
loved
makes some
every move Greer has made.
right.
Like, there's some that I didn't like in the moment. I made it very clear how I felt, but I could always still see why he was doing it. You know, you got to be like, it's one of those things where it's like you have to take yourself out of being a fan and just look out of like, how is he trying to improve the team? And
Yeah,
then you're like, okay, I can see it. This one, I don't, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense why you would claim him off waivers.
he is one of the oldest guys on the Sharks. He's going to be the set looks like the second include defenseman, he'll be the fourth oldest guy on the team playing on the roster next year that they have signed. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's been to San Jose before, which I imagine they figured at least would help. I wonder if they
Scored
knew
one of
they
the
were on
sickest
the no
goals
trade.
in Sharks history, by the way. He did do that.
The hypest in
But
my
but like
knowledge of the Sharks.
I get what you're saying, but first of all, winning 2
But
Stanley Cups doesn't matter because he won't be on the Sharks when they're going for the playoffs again.
no, but it's not about that. It's about he's a veteran. He's been around. He can teach them, winning culture type stuff. I
But
don't
you
know
already
how much
have
that's
that.
real, but
You've got
they love
Couture,
talking about that shit.
Granlund, Vlasic, Jan Ruda, Nico Sturm, Luke Cunnin. Like you've got guys already. You need to be, Goodrow comes in, he's going to be, either first of all taking away a roster spot from a young player trying to crack the lineup, or you could have used that money towards bringing in someone that can at least be more offensive and can maybe have help out more with your young studs that are going to be playing. Like he's going to be a fourth liner penalty killer. And again, it just, when you've already, again, you've
I
got
think
Nico
looking at this
Sturm, you've
Sharks
got Luke
roster, I think
Cunnin,
he's a
you've
little
got
higher than fourth
Delandria.
line.
But is he? Because he's not good. He is not like
He's
he was
not
very
bad.
good.
He's
He's bad
he's a
now.
decent player. Like he's
No, he's
he's
bad
not
now.
great, and he is certainly not worth 6 point or
He's
3.6
decent
mil.
defensively. He can be a solid penalty killer, but he does not provide any offense.
No, he does not provide much offense.
And
But that's
so
not what you're
you
getting
don't
for.
want to have him up there with any of your younger players that are relied on for offense. He's gonna be a fourth liner because he will not
Yeah.
provide offense to help out the young guys when you've got other guys that provide more. And then again, you've got Luke Cunnin, who
And
is the exact
I
same
don't
player
think
as
his
Goodrow, and Delandria, who is kind of the same player, but he's younger and has more upside at least.
those guys are both RFAs. They don't have a contract yet, but they are both
But
RFAs, so they're
they
not
will be signed.
yeah, they're not losing their rights anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's 3.6. This is a team that is barely going to make the cap floor. I mean, currently right now, what do they have on the books going into next season? Current projected cap hit 55 million 270,000. Projected cap space 32.7 million. That 3.64 is not gonna stop them from getting free
No,
agents.
it's not about the cap, but it's about taking away a spot from a younger player. And second of all, like
Mhm.
I'm not saying Goodrow's a bad dude and like he's gonna come into
No,
San Jose with a bad attitude and be like, fuck
no.
this. But at the same time, you're creating this whole new regime in San Jose, and they've made it very clear that we only want players who want to play for us and be here. And so when you claim a guy who's made it very clear he doesn't want to come back because the Sharks fucking suck, like, and then again, the biggest thing is
Yeah.
you're taking away a spot from a younger player or at least a free agent signing who can at least provide more offense. Because again, I think you've got so many of those, the Giovanni Smiths, the Luke Cunnins, Nico Sturm, now Ty Dellandrea, Barclay Goodrow. Like, you've got so many sandpaper guys.
I
Kinda
think you can
maybe
make
maybe
a
minus
fourth
Sturm,
line of that though. You're not gonna have. Are you gonna bring up many young rookies to play on the fourth line and hope that they're putting up points?
I think you've got more potential in guys like you could do a Brandon Coe, who's a big guy that I think could do it. I think Ozzy Weisblatt is ready to maybe make a jump, and I think he's kind of gonna, if he makes NHL, he's
I
probably
hope.
gonna be like a Ty
I,
Dellandrea, a fourth liner,
I hope he. I hope he does.
energy guy. So it again, like, and then like
Yeah, and it'll be
I don't know.
interesting
It's
to see
also
because
weird that
they have a lot of guys that are UFAs this year. Almost all of them are wingers: right wing, right wing, right wing, left wing, right wing, and left wing. So
the only three that are confirmed, it's kind of sounds like everybody else is gonna be re-signed. Mike Hoffman, Kevin LeBanc, and Barabanov are for sure hitting free agency.
which is too
Um,
bad. They could have got something nice for both Hoffman and Barabanov for sure. Like nothing
the
huge,
deal
but
fucked the Barabanov one because he
yeah,
was already going to the Rangers.
yeah. It that trade
I
makes
don't
less
know,
and less
like
sense. It
again
wasn't
and
horrible,
again,
but
it's
didn't
one of
help.
those things where it sucks when you're taking on a horrendous deal where if Goodrow knew, okay, I was going to go to San Jose either way, whether it's through trade or waivers, like the Sharks could have gotten a second round pick. A lot of people speculated that the Rangers were going to have to give up a first round pick to get out of that deal
Yeah,
because of the longevity of it. Like there's 3 more years of it.
yeah.
And so the fact that like the Sharks get nothing, and I really don't think Goodrow brings anything more than what, a Ty Dellandrea brings, who you just traded for. It is just a very weird move. And
I
you even
think
mentioned the whole if he pans out and kind of finds his game again, maybe
yeah,
trading with retention. The Sharks don't have retention spots either
yeah.
to do
That
so,
that
so
does
they're
hurt
kind
it.
of stuck with it. Like they're stuck with his deal.
Yeah, and I
Which
think
again, the
there's
cap
a good
I'm
chance
not worried
that's
about.
what they're going for.
It's all the other logistics around it. Like
I
the cap and the term doesn't
yeah. I
affect the
think the
Sharks one
way
bit.
that management is looking at it is that he does all the guys you're listing as doing the same job. He does that, but better because he can teach it to young guys. I'm not saying that's necessarily true. Personally, I think
No.
it's better to take the young guys because they can either grow or at least you'll have them for longer.
And you've
But
already
I
got
think
way better
GMs,
defensive
especially GMs
players in
that
Couture
used to
and
be
Granlund.
GMs that used to be
Yeah.
players fucking love bringing in guys that, God, this tough games. He won cups. Like there'll be teams that'll like sign these guys and be like, this guy is so good.
Mhm.
He won the Calder Cup in the AHL 9 years ago, and it's like, who cares? Like
Yeah.
some I don't know. Like it matters, but also it feels like a lot of the time for how much they'll move to make it happen. It feels like a lot of the time it kind of doesn't.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying again, but it's
I don't love the deal. Love it for the Sharks, but I can see why they did it for sure, and I halfway agree with it.
I can see why. I just don't like it when again, you've got so many guys
Yeah,
of that mold already, and you've got young guys in the AHL who I think can fill that role, and at least I think do it better because they're younger and faster and really like
yeah,
if you're younger and fighting for a spot in the league and you're faster, I think right there you've already got to step up. But
Yeah.
We'll see what happens here. This is the one time again where I really just can't see Mike Gear's vision. I'm trying to, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But going from the worst team in the
Yeah.
league
One
to
thing I just
oh,
want to throw one
I had a
final thing
cool
and
transition. Got
this is
fucked.
sorry.
Get fucked me.
This is only like a 10-second thing too. I just want to throw in that on cap friendly as it's still alive.
Still
Barclay
alive.
Goodrow has carried his A with him to the Sharks.
If he has a fucking letter, like no.
Logan Couture has the C, and Barclay Goodrow has an A, and that's it, according to Cap Friendly, of course.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
Because
so
when he
wrong.
saw on the Rangers, he had an A. He doesn't.
Yeah, no,
They didn't
because
announce that by the Sharks or anything.
Ferraro had an A, and then um, Hurdle had the other A. But once he got traded, then it kind of rotated between Granlund and Luke Cunnin. So if Barclay Goodrow fucking comes in with a letter, then that's even worse.
Yeah, unless
Because
then
that
there's
means
constant
you're
videos
taking
of
it
him
away
hanging
from
out with the boys. Like,
nah, you can't bring him in and be like, hey, we're now stripping another guy who's just as good of a leader. You can't do that.
yeah,
Can't do that. Mike wouldn't allow that. Probably. I don't know. What would I fucking know? You know what I do know? That there's two teams that are way better than the pissy Sharks. The Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers.
great
We
transition.
mentioned it. Game 6 is coming up here on Friday. And if you want to hear our full breakdown of Game 6 and potential preview of Game 7, or talking about the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, you can do that on Saturday when that episode comes out. All right. Where are we at here? What are we doing? Where do we start?
All right. So I watched this game pretty closely. I've got a couple notes.
Which game? Because we didn't
sorry,
do
sorry.
game
You know
four.
what? This mine that's about Game 5. We should start with Game 4.
Okay.
So the final score was it
8-1? A fucking
1?
snowman. I did that in golf the other day. First hole, I had a snowman. I'm like, man, this fucking sucks. Very next day, Florida gets an 8-bomb dropped on him. Another snowman.
Yeah, and
they got pissed on.
8-1 tells the story, really. Like, the Oilers came out there, guns a-blazing, and they outplayed them for basically the entire game. Everything went right for them. They made a lot of fantastic plays. McDavid obviously going nuclear. They were getting scoring all throughout the lineup. Darnell Nurse had a goal. I mean, he didn't look great throughout the game, but he didn't look near as bad as he had been. They had some really nice plays, including one from Janmark. Was that the game he got the shorthanded goal?
Yeah, that Janmark shot, I will say, it was going wide.
It was just barely going wide.
He put it wide, and it was Barkov that was sliding in that it went off of and in.
Which is only the second worst defensive play on that play, only to whichever defenseman it was sliding
Montour.
in and completely Montour taking out Bobrovsky so he couldn't make the save. Janmark put the puck in, so who went around and passed out front? Was that Connor Brown?
Connor Brown. And the thing is with Montour,
who has looked fantastic in these past 2 games, especially.
The thing is, I remember because we were together watching that play, and I watched it, and I was like, first of all, I'm not in the NHL, and I grow like playing hockey. I've tried playing defense. I thought I was going to be good at it, not very fucking good at it. But even I knew when you're in that position, you take a step towards the shooter to kind of angle him out, or the puck carrier, kind of keep him a little bit more wide, but you take away the pass, and then you're like, you got to try and beat fucking Bobrovsky one-on-one from a bad angle. Bobrovsky's saving,
been playing,
like 9.9 out of 10 times, except for the one where fucking Ekholm put it right through his belly button and out his ass into the net or whatever. But like that's what you do.
That's how it happened too.
And so exactly. And so it's like I'm not an NHL player. I'm not a defenseman. But even I realized, like, fuck, I know what Montour should have done there. And as soon as you do the slide,
and he should know better.
It
like
wraps. As soon as you go for the slide, like you're done. Yeah, you're cooked.
Yeah.
And then fucking goal there. And then from there on, it was kind of a onslaught a bit from Edmonton. Florida gets one back. It's like, okay, might be a game out of it. Stuart Skinner makes a fucking phenomenal save. And then Edmonton scores again. And then it was just Edmonton, from there on out. But it was just, they just ran with it.
Over games 4 and 5, at worst, I think Stuart Skinner has been the third best player on the Edmonton Oilers.
I would say
I
second.
think I was saying at worst, if you really wanted to say Connor Brown,
Second.
because he's
No.
been playing very well, 2
He's
shorthanded
been
goals,
playing good, but
or
like
2
no,
shorthanded
Skinner.
points rather.
Skinner's
But
2.
yeah, Skinner is, as far as contributing to the team, he has kept them in it. He has not just been a decent starter that they need and McDavid will do the rest. No, he's helping carry the team with McDavid in these past few games, and wow, what a time to do it.
Yeah, what a time to really come alive. So I got one thing.
Sure.
And I want to ask you this. So I've seen the people that after game 4, they were like, "Oh, Florida, purposely lost because they want to go home and do it at home." That's fucking bullshit. Like, you don't go out there and purposely lose a game in the Stanley Cup final. You don't let your goalie get bent over and embarrassed on national TV.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Bobrovsky's chasing down an NHL record for save percentage in the finals, and they want to lose, so they let in 8. Yeah, I'm sure they did that on purpose. No.
But here's my question to you. But it's kind of it's just kind of an idea, but I think you're gonna agree with me. I think the Florida Panthers already thought they had the series won. I think Florida went into game 4 thinking we're winning the cup tonight. Like, we're going out there and we're already thinking of the parade. We're thinking about where our flight's going after this, because they're probably not going back to Florida. They're probably going somewhere else to party it up for the night or whatever. They're already thinking of what drinks are ordering for the table. Like, they went in thinking they had it won. And then they went out there and they got fist fucked for 55 minutes of the 60.
They got embarrassed. They flew out I think it was 150 or so family members in total for the team to come watch them play in Edmonton. Imagine paying for your mom, dad, and maybe your brothers and sisters, your wife. They all fly from freaking Florida up to freaking Edmonton, Alberta, just to watch you get shit canned 8-1 and fly back the next day. That's got to feel shitty. And considering how on top of the world they must have felt after game 3, that's got to be embarrassing. And
they got fucking ruined.
What was it? Just the last
for 50 to 55 minutes of that game?
Yeah.
At most, you could argue that they had 10 minutes of good hockey.
Was it just last podcast where I was saying that Florida looks like a cup-winning team in how they don't panic? They always look cool, calm, and collected. They always look like business, right?
Okay, be careful what you're about to say, though.
But they looked flustered.
You know what you're saying? Okay.
They looked flustered. It really flustered in game 4.
We're going to talk
They
about
were kind of
game 5,
back to it to game 5.
The exact opposite. Opposite in game 5.
Exactly. And that's how cup-winning teams bounce back. Because they looked rattled in that game 4. They looked
just
like
nothing was going right for them. Like, it was a train wreck for them, and they couldn't put a stop to it. It seemed like you could see they were trying to kind of put Edmonton on ice there and kind of turn the game in their favor, in their direction, and they couldn't. And when they weren't able to, like they've been all year, they're like, holy shit, like, what do we do? Like, we've now played 30 minutes straight of trying to push back on them, and nothing's working. We can't do anything. And I think eventually they were just so rattled they didn't know what to do at that point. And fair enough. Like, when you try for that long and you literally can't get anything in your direction, and all you can kind of do is sit there and be like, fuck, like, what do we do at this point?
Yeah. And
it just wasn't meant to be.
They've got to the finals pretty handedly, and they beat this team 3 times. They're like, we know we should be able to, but even at 7 goals, we couldn't stop them from doing it again. But when game 5 came around, they looked more composed, but they did not look like the ice cold killers that they did in game 3 and before in the playoffs.
And the difference was
they calmed down, but they did not look calm.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like the way I look at game 5 is kind of a tale of 2 games. right? Like you've got kind of the
Yeah.
first half of the game where it's like Edmonton goes up 3-0. It's like, holy shit. Like, you know, early payout. Like Edmonton is running this game. They're running the show now. They're taking it back to Edmonton. But then it's like
Yeah.
from the time Edmonton went up 3-1 or 3-0, you take away Edmonton's empty netter there at the very end from McDavid. It's a 3-1 game. Like Florida was the better team. You know, not in as dominant as Edmonton was, I would say, in the kind of, to the point where they got up 3-0. But it's like Florida outplayed them. Florida outscored them. And,
Yeah.
Florida was like a fucking centimeter away from Sam Bennett tapping that one in to make it a 4-4 game and a tied game.
So close.
And I think if Bennett scores that, honestly, Florida probably ends up winning that game. Like it would be like everything would just be going their way. Edmonton would be like
they would have had to
gripping
score
their sticks
quick.
tighter, gritting their teeth. They would be getting nervous now, being
They would have had to score quick if they wanted to win
Yeah.
that game in overtime, because McDavid would not have been stopped for long.
Yeah, he's been on a fucking tear.
He is
and I will say,
possessed.
I will say, all right, I will say, you did talk about McDavid potentially getting Conn Smythe if Edmonton even loses, and I said no fucking way. But I did not expect this. Like, games
Watching
1
him
and
is
2,
such a damn treat,
yeah,
dude.
not great. Games 3, okay, we finally started to see it. He single-handedly has taken the series back to Edmonton now for Game 6.
Nobody in NHL history
but McDavid
has ever had
has been
4-point nights back to back in the finals, like he just put up.
He's also got 40 points. What's that? Him, Gretzky, and Lemieux?
Lemieux and Gretzky are the only two who have ever had more points in a single postseason run.
Like McDavid is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
Like he is again, Stuart Skinner's been good, but like McDavid has single-handedly carried this team to a Game 6.
Yeah, and like we were talking about Barkov being good for the Conn Smythe, and like Barkov, like compared to the Florida Panthers, compared to the best player on any regular deep run playoff team, has been very, very good. But there is not much you can compare to what McDavid's been doing.
The thing is now, though, if Florida wins the Cup, it's no longer does Barkov get it or Bobrovsky. It's does Barkov get it or does McDavid get it?
I've seen, and it's massive recency bias, but I've seen a lot of people saying it's McDavid or Tkachuk.
No, because
I don't think that should be the case.
Yes, because of
I don't
what
think that should at all
done. But also, as good as Bobrovsky's been, you cannot fucking give the Conn Smythe to a goalie who let 5 goals in 11 shots in a Cup final game. Because we know recency bias is a thing when it comes to the Conn Smythe.
Yeah. I would say you could if he clinches it with a shutout. If he clinches it with a shutout, I say it's fine to give it to him. But I don't see that happening.
It's not happening. Not the way McDavid is playing now. He is woken up now. There's no way. Maybe they clinch and he lets in 1 or 2, but he is not dropping a shutout.
Yeah, he would have to be insane to
I really do think like it is now Barkov or McDavid. Like if Edmonton wins a Cup, easily McDavid. If Florida wins it, could go either way. Go either way. I really do see it now. But you had some talking points for Game 5.
Yeah, I had a couple things written down. One of them being McDavid for Conn Smythe. We talked about that. Stuart Skinner is a bona fide NHL starter. I think confidently, win or lose, Edmonton knows that they can go into next season with him as the starter. Are they going to feel as good as some teams with these elite goalies? Are they going to feel as good as Winnipeg starting Hellebuck? No, but
I think they go. I think they're confident or comfortable going with Skinner, unless you're at a thing where it's like you have a chance where you could get Linus Ullmark or you could get UC Saros or someone of that caliber. I think if you're Edmonton, you have to go for that. But if you can't or there's nothing available like that, then I think they are at least I think they're comfortable that they can go in with Skinner at least, and then
they don't need to be calling every team asking him what goalies he got.
Yeah, and then you can either run it back with him, or you could at least ride him until the trade deadline, and then maybe someone becomes available then that you can, make a deal for. But I totally agree with you though that they can feel comfortable with him.
Yeah. Another thing is that there's been a lot of press coverage of what Florida has been saying at the end of games since games 2, 3, and onward. And Matthew Tkachuk the whole time is, I'm confident we'll win. We're going to get it done in game 4. They lose game 4. We'll get it done in game 5. Lose game 5. Bennett's like, we're taking it one game at a time. A lot of hockey answers, right?
Yeah.
And, they went out there. They looked like a brand new team in game 5. And then they went down 3-0. And pretty quickly, Matthew Tkachuk did not look like that guy for a good bit. He first of all, he ran into Stuart Skinner on 3 separate occasions, and that's just the ones I saw while watching the game. None of them were hockey plays. He literally would just unprompted go in and fall down on him because he's a goof. And there was one time where Edmonton, admittedly, you could call it too many men. I don't think most refs would in that case. The puck was over by their bench and they made a pretty slow change. Very lazy by Draisaitl. I think Draisaitl was so injured he couldn't get over the bench and he had to get somebody to open the door. It almost looked hard to watch just him getting off the freaking ice. But they had 6, maybe even 7 guys on the ice for a couple extra seconds. Puck was in the area. Tkachuk doesn't focus on the play. At a certain point, he stopped looking. He was holding his hands out, looking at the bench, looking around for a ref. He was smacking his stick on the ice. He went full crybaby mode. I don't like to throw that around too much, but because, you want to win and a power play can be massive, but to completely took himself out of the play and slamming his stick, the ref's not going to say he's right and give you the call. Yeah. It's got to be frustrating, but dude, dial in, come on. And he was very upset by that, and he really wanted a call. I think it was just later in that period, maybe 4 or 5 minutes after that. He's skating around, he has the puck, and whoever it was got a stick around his midsection, lightly, not that hard, and his feet go flying out from under him. And I was watching the game and I go, holy shit, I can't believe the refs called that. And they come back from commercial, and both guys were in the box. They got Tkachuk for embellishment. And since then, a couple alternate camera angles have been shown, and it looks even worse from the other side.
I will say, though, okay, come on, you're shit on him, but he had a fucking nice goal. We still got to give credit where credit's due.
Oh, absolutly. We'll get to it, because in the middle of the game, when they were down...
He was a full-on piss baby.
In the middle, half an hour, first half of the game, he did not look great out there. He didn't look that dangerous, and he looked like a huge whiner, and it didn't look good.
Come on, say it. He was a piss baby.
He was a piss baby.
Yeah, there we go.
He turned it on in the third. That is the Matthew Tkachuk they've been looking for. Every time... I don't even know if Barkov played in the third. I barely noticed him, because every time the Panthers looked dangerous, it was Tkachuk and Bennett in there causing havoc.
Yeah.
Every time they touched the ice, they were deadly for the entire rest of the game. And he ended up setting up Oliver Ekman-Larsson to score a nice goal. Unfortunately, at the end of the game, Matthew Tkachuk would make one of the best diving saves I've ever seen for a player.
What a play.
Hustled back, Mighty Ducks movie type shit, flying back, dives, knows if he has both arms forward, can't even reach it, so he reaches one arm out with his stick and swipes it to the side.
But also that most guys would dive forward and just swing their stick. He dove forward, waited until he knew he could potentially get it, and then he swung his stick.
He also made diving for the puck a skill somehow, and it was incredible.
The only thing he did wrong on that play, because obviously, OEL
I think I know what you're going to say.
Thinks it went in, flies away, and McDavid grabs it and then puts it in. Tkachuk should have just ran the net off and knocked the net off.
And he kind of did. It kind of popped up, and it was a little bit off, and he put it back on the pegs.
Yeah, and he should have just ran through that net and got a whistle.
And McDavid's lightning in skates, so of course he just grabs the puck in the corner, turns around, fires it in.
Yeah.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson just stopped skate. I don't even know where the other defenseman is. Why is Tkachuk the first one back, first of all?
Well, they had an empty net, so I think they were rolling with...
Okay.
At the time, I think they had 5 forwards in OEL.
That makes sense.
But yeah,
But
I think OEL honestly just he thought it went in and said fuck.
he thought it did. I don't fucking care. Dude, Oliver
Yeah,
Ekman-Larsson, what is this guy? 31 years old? He's supposed to be one of your veteran presences on the team. You are out there in a one-goal game in the Stanley Cup final. You could win the cup tonight. There's 30 seconds on the clock. I don't care if you think anything. Play to the whistle. If McDavid doesn't look checked out, he just completely stopped.
yeah.
I
It
know
was
people, a lot of people
embarrassing.
say it, but play to the whistle, man. 30 seconds more.
Yeah.
And that's brutal, you know?
And at the bare minimum, you stick on McDavid. Even if he scores, you could still give him a fucking whack or something on
Yeah,
the
hell,
hands
if
as
you
he's
think,
shooting. Like
hell, even if he's a pessimist and goes, we're not going to win this game, throw him into the boards. What are they going to do? Give you boarding?
Yeah, like you could have done anything, but you just skate away and you completely just you showed you just gave up on it all. And I agree. It's a very, very bad look.
Especially after Tkachuk put in so
there.
much effort to not only get the team back within it, like I said, he's the one who set up Ekman-Larsson for scoring earlier. He's the one who helped them get to within a comeback. He put in all that effort to stop the empty netter.
Well, not only
for
that,
McDavid to just turn around and rip it
I
in.
thought OEL played a fucking great game. I thought he was noticeable. Every time he's out there, I was like, man, he is looking really good. And then
the
he
best
does
game he's played all playoffs.
And then he does that shit, though, and that's what sticks with you now. Because when I think of OEL in that game, I'm like, all right, he had a fucking nice sniz, and then he fucking just checked out and said, oh, McDavid, have a fucking go on the empty net. Rifle it through Matthew Tkachuk's sternum if you want to score a goal or something. Like, that's what sticks with you, though. Like, you've got a good and a bad.
Tkachuk went full goalie in the net as well. He did everything to stop it. Like, he went down, didn't cover his face. He covered as much of the net as possible. He would have taken it in the teeth to just block it.
We went full Chris Tanev for it.
So, I mean, good on... And, of course, McDavid with the ultimate hockey IQ of just being like, okay, he's going to make it and stop it. He's going to throw it over there. He didn't even have to think about what just happened. He went, oh, okay, I'll just grab this, spin around here, take the shot, easy.
Yeah.
It looked so routine for him, but he looked hype when he scored it.
Yeah, we're finally starting to see some, and that's the thing. We're finally starting to see some emotion from McDavid now. Like he's starting to feel it. He's starting to see that there's hope. And Game 6 is going to be such a
God. I hope it's a close game. I don't care the result, whatever. Make it a close game. One goal game, please.
It's going to be such an interesting game because it's like Draisaitl's been non-existent,
a ghost.
Like he's been a ghost. And again, we know he's dealing with something. But again, it's also like if you're as people proclaim, second best player in the league, third best player, a top 3 player in the league, whatever you want to call him, as people will say, you cannot go fucking invisible like this in the Stanley Cup final.
I can't even blame him because he's so clearly injured. If it comes out he's not injured, fine. But we already knew he had wrist injury for a bit. But he clearly,
even
it's either his back,
if Kucherov
his legs,
had an injury,
both.
If McKinnon had an injury, McDavid, they're not going quiet like this, though. They are still able to generate offense.
It depends what the injury is, right?
No, I don't think so.
It does, though. Victor Hedman, in years past, he's looked so good in the playoffs. And then there was that one year he was just so injured.
Defense is different because you are constantly getting hammered in your corner,
but that's the kind of series this is. Because Draisaitl looks good out there on the power play. 5-on-5, abysmal, all over the ice. They genuinely, if he's injured, they should take him off the second line. Don't play him 5-on-5. Roll him out there for 2 straight minutes on the power play, and then get him the hell off the ice. That's how it looks like they should do.
He's not a good player and all this, but I'm saying I think
no, we both know he's fantastic.
You can't. I don't think you can put him in a tier with McKinnon and Kucherov though. Because either one of those guys, we've seen them play through injuries, and we've seen them still fucking tear it up.
We don't know what kind of injury it is. There's so many degrees to what an injury could be, though, right? Like some guys, it's like, oh man, he looks great playing through an injury. It's a hair fracture in his hand, and then some guys, it's like punctured lung.
If it's enough, he can still play. I don't know.
Because he might not allow the doctors
invisible
to take him out.
5-on-5, and when you notice him, it's not for
he's
good
backing
reasons.
Away from every hit. He's not skating hard. It's got to be legs or back to me. I genuinely think it's on the level of broken
It, I,
sternum with
I
Kachuk
think
last
it's
year.
I think it's a lower body.
It has to be.
I'm pretty sure it's lower body.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, Draisaitl, like they're again, it's like going into game 6, there's potential for Draisaitl to pop off and have a terrific game. But then you look at Florida and it's like we're kind of still waiting to have that it's kind of been the fucking you know Evan Rodriguez
I was gonna
show
say we had
for their
the
offense.
Rodriguez
Like
game.
we haven't, and Barkov, I don't think you can rely on him to have a big offensive game, but it's like
It's
guys
hard to
like
when you're
Carter
defending
Verhaeghe, one of the
McDavid,
most clutch playoff guys, Sam Reinhart, who had
and
the
that's who I think is going to do it too.
second most goals in the regular season or something. Like, and also shout out to Zach Hyman. He hit 15 goals in the playoffs, which
18,
I
I
think
believe, is
is
the single postseason record. So he's
yeah, like
3 away from that.
but
Um,
again, it's like you got to feel like Sam Reinhart's due for game. It's like so it's like who
yeah.
and I don't know. I could be wrong, but I
If
feel like when
Kachuk
you go
plays
into
like he did at
game,
the end, the Oilers could be very in trouble next game
see, but the thing
because
is, I'm
he
almost
was
feeling like going
dangerous.
into game 6, the team that wins, it's not going to be off the shoulders of Kachuk having a huge game or McDavid. I think it's going to be one of these other guys. I think it's going to be like a Nugent Hopkins like he did when he had the 2 goals against Dallas, Draisaitl, or it's going to be like a Verhaeghe
A
or
Connor Brown,
a
the way he's
Reinhardt,
playing.
like very well could be.
Adam
But I don't
Henrique's
know.
looked
I
really
just
good out there with him as well.
Yeah,
That
I just got
entire
that feeling though that
penalty kill
like
has been great.
it's gonna be, the team that wins game 6, it's gonna come from a, not the superstar. Like it's gonna still be a well-known player, but it's gonna be a guy that's been kind of quiet that I think really just has a
Yeah,
whale of a game. And
I
I can't
definitely
wait for this
I
game.
definitely get that feeling, but at the same time, it is funny that you say that after the 2 games that McDavid has had. Like I definitely get what you're
I
saying,
know,
but at the
I
same
and I
time,
know,
like
but I'm also
he's been
thinking
running
like
the show.
I'm also thinking like,
I know what you mean.
Like I feel you feel like Florida's got to get at least,
Yeah,
you know,
Luosterainen's gonna go out there and put up 2 goals
a
for 3 points.
period or a period and a half at least of Florida's top line that we saw in games 1 to 3 where they, or at least 1 and 2, where they kind of were able to shut down McDavid. So at the very least, like maybe we're only looking at like a 2-point night for McDavid or something. But I don't know. I just feel like we're going to see someone kind of rise to the occasion and you know just have a hell of a game. When we're looking back at that game, it's like, man, like they were the difference maker. Maybe they didn't drive the play, but they got the clutch, goals, clutch assists, or whatever to kind
Big
of
shot blocks. Yeah,
to kind
you
of
can do a
turn the tide
lot
of
to
the
help your
game.
team
And
win in the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah. So
And
I don't even know where to like feel going into this game. I still think it could go either way.
easily could go either way at this point.
Yeah,
Edmonton has all the momentum, but Florida is the best team in hockey right now, for my money, and
yeah,
it's hard to just count them out for 2 games in a row after how they've played this entire playoff. So we'll definitely see. I think Kachuk needs to not worry about the refs and just play his game, keep being a little shit heel where you can, and dominate play for the rest of it. Um, yeah, they just got to play their game that they know how to do because Edmonton's kind of suckered them in a little bit. They've
yeah,
kind of been a little, hey, yeah, fucking push me again. Oh, good, you got a penalty. We'll go to the power play,
yeah,
and then because they got a penalty, it's okay. Well, we're getting the next one. Edmond takes a penalty. Well, now their penalty kill scores a shorthanded goal. Like they're
yeah,
killing them on the special teams, which we knew they could. That's kind of Edmonton's thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. One thing I do want to ask you, and
Wait, I just got one thing before
sure,
this, just
go for
quickly.
it, go for it.
So, because just before I forget, so I did say, at the very beginning, I said, your original prediction was Edmonton in 7. I had Florida in 6. Both still on the table. I said mine maybe changed. It is not. I'm still going with Florida. I think Florida does wrap it up in game 6 for one reason. I think Florida went up 3-0. Going to game 4, Florida's viewing it as we're going into game 4. Edmonton's going in like we're going into game 7. Game 5, Florida's like, all right, we're going into game 5 at home. Edmonton's like, we're going into game 7 tonight.
Yeah,
And I think now Florida's sitting there like, and especially Paul Maurice, they're starting to think like, if we fucking lose game 6, we're losing game 7.
Yeah.
Like we are not dropping game 6 and then pulling out a win in game 7.
Yeah.
So I think
People are going to believe in
now
them as
it's
much as they believed in the Oilers when it was 3-0 Panthers.
yeah. And so now I think game 6, it's Edmonton's going in like we're going in like it's game 7. But now Florida's going in and they're like we're going in like it's game 7.
I don't see how they can play any other way than both teams treat it like a game 7. You
Like
have
oh
to
yeah,
at this point.
because if Ed, I think if Ed like and you know, this is like if Florida wins game 6, they're the cup champs. If Edmonton wins game 6, I think Edmonton's winning game 7 in Florida. I think Edmonton's pulling off the reverse sweep. Like this game, I think is basically the who's winning the cup.
Yeah.
I just
And I
don't
think
see a
that's how a
world
lot of
now in
people are
which
looking at it.
Florida loses game 6, but then they pull it out in game 7. Like if Edmonton's taken 6, they're taking 7 as well.
I will say very recently as well, in the Eastern Conference Finals of the AHL playoffs, there was who was it? The Cleveland Monsters and what was the Florida
Hershey
team?
Bears.
And the Hershey Bears.
That's
Florida
Washington's team.
Yeah.
That's the team that's dominated the AHL for the last couple of years.
Yeah. And they the Hershey Bears went up 3-0 in the series. They were crushing them, and the Monsters brought it all the way back to make the series 3-3. In game 6 of that, Hershey was it was a tie game in the last minute. Hershey scored with about 50 seconds left. The Monsters tied it with 15 and then won it in overtime. So that was super clutch.
Yeah.
And then the team that was up 3-0 first ended up winning game 7 in the end.
Yeah, but they weren't going up against McDavid.
No,
they were going up against
I'm just saying, we saw
David.
We saw something similar recently, you know? God. I hate the thought of a reverse sweep winning 3 games and not getting the 4th because like God, that's just such magic to get all 4. But yeah, it's going to be close. I'm going to stick with Oilers in 7. This is the McDavid I expected to see, and am I confident about the pick? No, but I wouldn't be confident about any pick left to pick.
Yeah.
You can't watching this series, how could you possibly expect what's going to happen in the next game?
Well, and that's like the 2 options. It's Florida wins in 6 or Edmonton in 7. I don't see a world in which Florida wins in 7, honestly. I really don't.
I could see them. McDavid runs their show again, and then all of a sudden he runs out of gas, or Tkachuk just finds his game and goes off for 5 points, 4 goals in a game 7. Like, it could all happen. These teams are both so good.
It is possible. I personally don't see it happening.
These 2 teams are both so insanely good. I could see anything happening in any scenario of these final 2 games. But
you did have one thing that you wanted.
So I don't know if you've seen it because a lot of people have been posting about his stats. Where do you think McDavid stands in all-time playoff points? Career. So
he's probably top 15 now already.
He's played. How long has he played? This is 9th season, 8th or 9th. This is their first time getting to the Cup final. They've made it to the the Western Conference final once.
This was their second year making it. The first time they got swept.
Right. So he is 73rd all time already in playoff points.
Oh, jeez. I thought he was way higher.
With 117. So you look at the names around him on that
list. I thought he had more than that. I thought he was already, based on this year, I thought he's more than that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They really haven't gone that deep too many times.
I guess,
which is the main thing. But he was, I could have swore I wrote it down, but I guess I don't have it here. He's 73rd all time. I believe he was like 110th all time at the start of this playoff run. or like maybe even higher. Like it was something insane like that. Like he jumped up so much. Um, I did have another one because I have no idea if you know this stat or if you could guess it, but where do you think Joe Pavelski is all time for playoff points?
Oh, geez, that's a random one. I know he's got to be up there because he has a lot of fucking playoff games.
Yeah, he's played a
Um,
lot of playoff games. He's got
35. Just a round number, 35.
37th.
Wow.
Good
All right.
shout.
Well, just because I knew like he's not one of the,
143
like the
playoff points.
the elite guys that are up there, but the fact that he has so many games played he had to be up there
He has over
somewhere.
200 playoff
Yeah.
games played, I'm pretty sure. Um,
Yeah.
and by the way, and there's a good chance we'll talk about it at length more sometime in this offseason. But for my money, Joe Pavelski is a Hockey Hall of Famer.
I would agree.
I think he's pretty borderline. I think he's a Hall of Very Good for his regular season, but the amount of scoring he did and what he did in the playoffs puts him over the top for me personally.
He's always been a Hall of Famer guy to me. I got no problems with that.
People do not put enough respect on playoff stats for Hockey Hall of Fame consideration. They just talk about Conn Smythes and Stanley Cups. The points and the stats matter. If you were a absolute killer in the playoffs, but your team was always mid, that's not exactly your fault. I'm sorry you didn't carry the other 18 guys out there to winning.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yeah, I don't even know if we mentioned McDavid passing the all-time record for assists in a single postseason run, previously held by none other than Wayne Gretzky at 31.
Yeah, if we didn't talk about that.
He's all the way up at 34 now, so Gretzky can get used to being the next best guy. But yeah,
actually,
insane run by McDavid. I cannot freaking wait for Game 6. I was so deflated after Game 3. I was like, "Fuck, man! I wanted to watch an excited finals, and God, did Game 5 deliver!" Like it was fun to watch the Oilers come back in Game 4, but it was like, good for them. Now, like shit's real. Now they can do a reverse sweep, and
like the door was creaked open a bit after that 8-1,
so
but it's
fun,
open now. It's open after Game 5.
That might be the most fun I've had watching any NHL game as a fan. As a neutral fan, as a not watching a Tampa Bay game, like that was a fun game to watch. Both teams
was a great
brought
game.
it. There was a lot of game breaking. We still haven't even talked about half the shit McDavid did. He just danced through 4 guys and set up Perry for the easiest playoff goal of all time.
That was a gross play. That was nuts. That was the McDavid that we're kind of expecting to see in games 1 and 2 and even a little bit in 3 as well.
Yeah. And you know what? If you get beat by McDavid in a foot race, I'm not going to blame you for it. He's fucking fast. Yeah. But these defensemen who McDavid walks over the blue line with the puck, and then he just goes past them, and it's like they didn't realize he was going to. Bro, he does this. Like, he doesn't do it every time, so you can't always expect it, but you got to have it in the back of your head that, hey, he's capable of torching me. He could do it any second, Like, I swear some of these guys don't realize he's even trying to before he's already passed them.
Yeah. Yeah, like, again, he's just been at an incredible pace right now. What he's doing is phenomenal. And again, if you want to hear our full breakdown of Game 6, you will be able to tune back in the next day after this one on Saturday to hear that. So that kind of wraps up what we got for the playoffs here.
Everything I got.
We only got one thing left, and this is one thing that I wanted to save to the end because before we recorded last episode, right? You mentioned, should we talk about, the rumors about Jacob Slavin and his deal with the Hurricanes? Because, there was kind of confirmation that, they're working out an extension and we will get one. But we decided to save it because we wanted to be like, all right, we'd rather know a bit more about, the kind of a little bit more about the deal, not just like, oh, they're talking about an extension, because we didn't know where this deal would kind of even fall in terms of AAV and all those other things.
Yeah. Yeah, we just knew they were talking about
We
it.
now know, though, this isn't confirmed, but this is from Elliot Friedman, so
Pretty good.
there's got to be some merit to it. And this is wild. This is like insane. He's got insider on what it sounds like Jacob Slavin's deal is going to be with the Hurricanes that will be signed on July 1st, the first day of free agency, when he's eligible to sign this contract extension. What do you think his deal is going to be? How many years and how much per year?
So it is. So they're not moving him. So this is an extension, I'm assuming then, right?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is an extension, and this
They're
is what
extending
it sounds
him.
like it's going to be on July
He
1st.
is 30 years old, I believe, if I'm not
Yeah.
correct.
Potentially 31.
A lot of teams are locking guys up for a bit later in their careers because that's just how you get them to stay for lower AAV. 30
Yeah, so he's
years
signing
old?
this at 30, and
30.
at May of next year he'll turn 31.
Oh, and it'll start when he's 31 because it's an extension.
Yeah, it'll start when he's 31.
I'm going to assume they're giving him 7 or 8. I think you have to.
7 or 8 years.
Is he allowed 8? He is allowed 8, right?
Yep, he is allowed 8 because it is an
Okay.
extension.
I'm
Yeah.
going to assume it's 8 years. That'll be paying him till he's 39 at the end. Who knows? As a defensive defenseman, who knows how that's going to age? But right now, he looks fantastic. I think since he'll be getting it so late in his career, I think that could bring the AAV down considerably. And Carolina's got some decent contracts. I don't know how they keep doing it. I want to say around 8. I want to say around 8 by 8, something like that. I think that could be pretty realistic.
No.
Not even
not
close.
8 by 8. No.
All right, let me hear it.
You're $1.5 million off per year.
Okay, that's not too bad. There's no way though.
That's what it is. You're $1.5 million off.
There's no way it's lower. There's no way.
Dude, it's lower. It sounds like it's going to be an 8-year deal, 6.5 per year.
Wow, that is a
I'm not. That's from Elliot Friedman. That's from Elliot Friedman. So you got to know that there's.
I don't think there's anyone I would
truth to
trust more to tweet out rumors that like are unconfirmed. Like he's probably the number one guy I would trust on rumors. 6.5?
6.5 mil per year.
He's the best defensive defenseman in the league. You can make some arguments for other guys, but
I think in terms of all around like defensive game, yes.
Yeah.
Like there's other guys that's like is kind of equally as good or right in there, but they bring so much more offense. But in terms of like in your own end, defensive defenseman, it's Jacob Slavin.
Yeah.
8-year deal, 6.5 per year. Which
that would be so good for the Hurricanes. Who knows how it would age, but I don't think they care right now.
I don't think it would age very great, but at the same time, like you said, exactly. They're in a win now mode. And if you can have Jacob Slavin for the next even 4 years at 6.5 is
I was going to say
huge.
I think that's the window. The next 4 years. They want to win at least one in the next 4 years about.
And by the time his deal is expiring, you're going to be, you're probably not going to be a great contender anymore. Like you're going to be a team kind of fighting for a wild card spot, and that's you're kind of going to be like where the Washington Capitals are, maybe. Give or take. And in the last like 2 years of that deal. So
and that's how the contracts are structured, that you pay to get a discount early so that you're paying so that they get a bonus at the end when they're not worth it.
But like 6.5 is a fucking massive discount.
That's
nice
a
for them. Fat discount there.
So. I thought I was about to say 7.5, but I thought that was insane.
Yeah, you would have been closer with it. But that is right now what the rumors are sounding like for Jacob Slavin deal. That does kind of wrap up everything we have in this episode here. We did kind of go a lot longer than we thought with this one, but
Yeah.
It happens. Like
Yeah. It's fun talking
we're
about
shitters.
hockey.
So
I'm just so jazzed about this final, man.
yeah.
It's been so fun to watch.
Yeah, and then again, if you're a first time listener or someone who's looking for a hockey podcast, feel free to send us their way because we're covering all things playoffs right now, kind of a little other outside news around the league, and then again, as soon as the playoffs ends, we're getting right into the draft. After the draft, we're getting right into free agency. Don't know about our schedules, but maybe we'll kind of come up with some fun stuff to do over the course of the draft and free agency, and then maybe once
There's always
who
stuff
wins
to
the cup
talk about.
final. And if you want to follow along with all of our stuff talking about the playoffs and some other league news stuff, you can find us on any of our socials. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at SEU Hockey. Come throw us a follow. Come say hi. Come let us know your thoughts on some of these. If you're a Flames fan and you want to talk about the Markstrom deal, slide into any of our socials and we'll gladly talk about about it and hear your thoughts, give us some of our thoughts about it. Or if you're a fan of any other team making moves or a fan of a team in the cup final, come chat with us and come talk hockey with us because we are all things hockey here.
Yeah, and we've been kind of toying around with the idea. I don't know if we'll do it right away, but we have been thinking about doing a segment probably close to the end of the show where maybe we take one or two tweets, just taking like kind of a social media bit at the end to answer questions you guys have about the league or hell, just about the
if we got
podcast. You
any,
want to
we
add?
would do that. 100%
Yeah,
we do that.
yeah, ask about our dumbasses, ask what we think about this and this. Hey, you guys didn't talk about, Johnny Gaudreau got caught picking his bum again. What do you think about that?
Gaudreau. I guess that is one other thing. We're not going to go deep into it, but fuck, you always do that where you pick a random player or a random team or a random thing, and then I'm like, oh shit, hey, this. Not going to dive into it much, but the Columbus Blue Jackets did fire head coach Pascal Vincent.
Oh yeah,
Thrown into a super shitty
classic.
situation where Babs got fired. Babs got fucking trying to look up nudies on phones, and he got the boot.
Babs at it
And
again.
classic Babs. And Pascal
That's old
Vincent got
style
thrown
hockey.
into a role that I don't think he was quite ready for. He didn't know what he was doing. It was so close to the start of the season. He kind of got fucked. He got bent over like the Florida Panthers did in Game 4. He is out in Columbus, and that means Johnny Gaudreau, when they hire a new coach, he will have had 10 coaches in 10 years in the NHL.
Wow, that's actually
He's averaging a different head coach every year. So that's a fun fact there for Johnny Gaudreau. So thank you for bringing him up so we could.
Yeah, I'd be picking my bum too if I had 10 coaches in 10 years.
He does though. Like he has to. He just gives off that vibe. Sorry, Columbus, but like that's what you got.
That would be a very hilarious rumor to see going around on hockey Twitter.
Well, you might have started something. You might have started something that Johnny Gaudreau is just a chronic fucking ass picker. Like, and you know what? If he is, okay, that's fine. Like, at least Columbus will kind of have something to talk about because
Oh man,
all we can talk about is you firing everybody.
Somebody get Photoshop a video of Gaudreau using smelling salts and just Photoshop away the smelling salts and see if it looks like he's smelling his finger.
Oh, someone could easily do. If someone can do that and tag us in that, please do because that would be phenomenal. You're gonna start something about Gaudreau, and you're gonna have to answer to it one day. I do hope you know that. Like you have started.
I'm
this
like
now.
the least mean guy to Gaudreau in all of Calgary.
But you started this now. You started that he picks his bum all the time.
Well, maybe he shouldn't be doing it literally all the time.
This is what I mean. You're starting it, and now this is gonna spread, and we are never gonna let this die. But yeah. So Gaudreau picks his ass, and again, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. We really hope you guys enjoy Game 6 on Friday, as I know we both will for sure, and then we'll see you guys back here on Saturday.